Hey friends, it's Jasmine, and I hope that you all are doing well. If you're new to my channel, welcome. I am a witchy content creator here on YouTube and other platforms as well. So if you're interested in just keeping up with me, you can check out all of my links down below. If you're a returning subscriber, hi, it's good to see you back. And let's get into today's video. I want to talk about this solar eclipse that is happening. Today, when I'm releasing this video, we are having the Great North American total solar eclipse, which I think is kind of stretching from like Central America up through Canada across the United States. And a lot of people have been sort of buzzing about this eclipse. And I've gotten some DMs and I've gotten some questions regarding how we as traditional witches should be working with the eclipse. I know that on TikTok, there's a ton of buzz about eclipses and how like you totally shouldn't work with them and they're full of chaotic energy, how anything that you attempt to manifest during an eclipse is going to be polluted by the energy of the eclipse, how it's stupid and how it's foolish and how you shouldn't do it and blah, blah, blah. And then of course there's your crowd of people that makes them want to manifest and work with that eclipse energy even more because you tell someone not to do something. And especially I feel like for witches and our oppositional defiance, we kind of tend to follow in that direction anyway, as we are transgressive practitioners. And so I do think that it's kind of a double-edged sword when it comes to solar eclipses and what this means for us in our practice and as traditional witches, as American traditional witches, as American folkloric witches. I reached out to a few of my friends who are also trad witches and asked them what they thought about the eclipse. And most of them kind of felt the same way that I did or didn't really have much of an opinion either way. I think that if we look to the past at how maybe our ancestors or how mythologies sort of look at eclipses, oftentimes they were looked at in association with ill omens, malefica, natural disasters, and like end of the world and apocalyptic. A lot of the folkloric sort of current of eclipses. And I've done a little bit of my own research as well. And so I have a document that I've sort of compiled a list of sources for what I'm about to talk about when it comes to eclipses. And I encourage you, if you are interested, to fall down the rabbit hole yourself. You can check out some of the links that I'm providing down below, or feel free to comment how you feel about the eclipse down below. I would love to know like what you are doing for the eclipse and how you are working with it, because it really does kind of seem like this very nuanced gray area. I will say that I'm absolutely not of the opinion of telling anyone what they can and cannot do. I have no interest in that whatsoever. So don't feel like any of my personal opinions regarding the eclipse is in any way telling you how you need to be running your practice. I think for myself, I think it's important to look at what sign the sun or moon is in during the eclipse. And from my understanding, we get these total eclipses about every 18 months-ish. There's several lunar and solar eclipses that happen a year. What makes them special when they're a total solar eclipse is that if the path of totality goes through your area, that's kind of what makes it special, because that's a little bit more rare and does not happen as often. But eclipses are really happening all over the world multiple times out of the year. So it's not like this super uncommon, crazy thing. It's just uncommon to be able to witness more than one eclipse in a static area. Like I live here in the Midwest, and this could be the last total solar eclipse of my lifetime, theoretically. So that is, I guess, kind of cool and kind of special, but it's not like this is only happening, you know, every several hundred years or so. Also, these eclipses are a natural part of nature and the natural way and cycle. So I don't necessarily think that they're inherently like super crazy, evil, otherworldly, whatever. No, I think it's very of our world. And I do think that there could be otherworldly forces that could be associated with this time, because we have associated eclipses with liminality. We've associated eclipses with evil spirits. We've associated eclipses with malefic workings. To me, especially for a solar eclipse, I think what makes the most sense would be doing Malefica during a solar eclipse. I mean, in a lot of mythologies, we have the sun god being eaten, or we have the world tree or life being consumed by an all-consuming force, which is very symbolic also of the eclipse. So I think by doing like sort of devouring domination workings, Malefica, I think that that aligns quite well with solar eclipse sort of energy. I also think that doing protections, I think that there would be a lot of folkloric charms that might be associated with just stepping up your wards around your property, stepping up your wards on your home, maybe also like throwing some wards, some travel charms in your car could be potentially good sort of solar eclipse workings. Also, to my understanding, that typically lunar eclipses and solar eclipses happen in relation to each other. So we just recently had a lunar eclipse, and now we're getting ready to have our solar eclipse. And oftentimes these happen 2 weeks apart from each other. And the way that I've kind of understood this, mostly just through the grapevine of TikTok, to be honest, which I know is not a great source, but I do think that it is kind of like a modern grapevine. Like, we're sort of building modern lore while we are living it in a way. And I think that social media is very powerful. I do think that you should take with a large grain of salt a lot of the metaphysical stuff that floats around on TikTok, on the internet. Like, I remember when everyone was freaking out about the whole Lionsgate thing. Like, some of that to me is just...
it's not my bag.
It's not. And it feels a little cringe, even sometimes, to me. I'm not here to yuck your yum. Consider myself an astrologer, someone who practices astrology. And so I do think that if we look at like the sign that the eclipse is taking place in, I think that that can kind of shed more light on how this eclipse is sort of being flavored. And like I've mentioned, these eclipses are kind of looked at as lunar eclipses are a divine or grand ending associated with liminality, and solar eclipses are kind of associated with like a divine or grand beginning, also associated with liminality. But both lunar and solar eclipses have been associated with witchery and magic and liminality and death and apocalyptic end of the world ill omens. And a lot of the mythology and the folklore that I can find. And I think as someone who is practicing traditional witchcraft, American traditional witchcraft, someone who's in a neo-tradition, like, I think looking at history and folklore can greatly inform our practices. And I think that we should take heed and kind of use it as a blueprint or as a guide, but also like what is resonating for us. I mean, it's an absolutely beautiful natural phenomenon that I think that we can absolutely enjoy. I think, you know, stockpiling like eggs and bread and acting like we're gonna be snowed in for weeks and that we're gonna lose power and that it's the end of the world feels a little bit silly to me. And, you know, if the evil spirits being summoned by these malefic witches are something to be feared during the eclipse, like, we are the witches. So I don't really see what's super scary. I've heard also through this grapevine, right, that like between the lunar and solar eclipse is like this sort of limbo, like purgatory time of like natural disasters and like crazy things happening. Maybe. I know that New York just had a hurricane. The Statue of Liberty was just struck by lightning. I know that in my local area, we've had an onslaught of just crazy thunderstorms, high winds, and tornadoes, but It's also springtime, and so that is kind of fairly common in our area, but it does seem like there have been more. But I don't know that there's some grand, divine, cosmic, like, punisher, you know, that's happening with this eclipse. I don't know if I would say that. I think for me, like, doing protection work, upping up your wards, your travel charms, and possibly malefic work would be what I would look to, and what I would suggest. And I'm kind of making this video so that way I have it to send to people when they slide into my DMs and ask me about solar eclipses. Another thing that I think about when it comes to eclipses is like Omencraft. And this is something I've talked about a little bit on my channel, but I was recently talking with a friend and kind of sparked this whole conversation, and they kind of inspired me to make this video. So I'll talk a little bit about it here, but Omencraft, which is sort of the working name that I have for this, is basically the craft of conjuring an omen. I know, it's like really crazy, really advanced, super high tech. No. No. So basically, if you have like a yes or no sort of question or scenario in mind that you're looking for guidance or an answer for, something that's very black or white. Should I go? Should I stay? You know, should I continue down the career path I'm on, or should I forge a different path? Should I stay with this person or should I leave? Like X or Y. Black or white, A or B, if you will. You're basically going to write that out on a sort of petition paper, and then you're going to burn a novena, but really you can use any kind of candle that you would like. I personally like to use novena candles like this back here, because as this burns down, you can also read the glass as a secondary form of divination to kind of look into how the spell is doing. But you can totally do that with candle wax as well. I think a beeswax candle would also be great. I've seen some really cool methods of getting those beeswax sheets and anointing them and rolling herbs in them and sort of making them yourself. It's something that I would like to try. I've not done that, but basically burning a candle on top of your petition for show me X or Y. And your petition should be something along the lines of, you know, should I stay at my current job or should I leave? Fill in the blank, whatever sort of yes or no type question that you have. And then you want to find 3 signs. And these 3 signs can be anything. I would just suggest within reason, right? Some people want to practice Omencraft through the natural world. So if where you live there are not wild zebras, that might not be a great omen to pick. Maybe you want to pick like geese, cardinals, squirrels, hares, snakes, right? Or maybe having the natural world show you these signs is not necessarily as important. Maybe you're going to receive these signs by watching TV and something popping up in the commercial. Maybe you're going to have something come to you in a dream or in a song lyric. And it is important when practicing Omencraft to not create a self-fulfilling prophecy where you're going out of your way to see these signs. And that can be kind of tricky and involves a little bit of discernment. So picking very specific omens, I think, is very important. Like, let one omen be a ruby red cardinal. Let one omen be a large blue dog. Let one omen be a beaver's dam. Like, it could be anything, right? So, and feel free to like use your own creativity, and it doesn't have to be things from the natural world. That's just one method of doing this. Totally up to you though. Once you have your question and your 3 omens written on the paper, like I said, you're gonna burn your candle on top of it. You could anoint this candle with your own blood as well to really connect it to yourself and your own energy, and also connecting it with like your red soul, connecting it with your ancestry, calling out to your blood to help you receive these omens. Totally optional. You could anoint it with olive oil. Do not sleep on the sacredness and the power of some good olive oil. So also in your petitioning, you should have some sort of timeline. So have all 3 of these signs come to you by maybe the next full moon, or in 3 full moons. You pick your own timeline, and you decide what that looks like. I would do at least a lunar phase though. This is going to be a longer working. This is not going to be something that's just one and done and all 3 signs are going to show up at your front door. So I would give it at least a lunar cycle, and you're going to have your timeline, your 3 signs, and your question written on the paper. You're going to burn your candle on top of it. And then when you're done, you're going to bury your paper in the ground and you're going to wait to get these signs. You could bury this at a crossroads. That would be probably ideal. Or you could bury it on your property. But I would bury the petition paper and then I would wait and just see what signs you get out of the 3 that you have selected to be your omens. Now, with this being said, you could theoretically receive 1 omen. You could receive 2. You could receive none. And the amount of the omens that you receive, I think, is also very telling. If you receive all 3, I take that as a very strong yes. Whatever the question might be, it's a yes, right? If you receive none, then it would be a no. And if you receive 2 out of the 3, I would take that more as a maybe yes. And if you receive 1 out of the 3, I would take that more like maybe not, like kind of leaning more towards no. But it's up to you how you want to design this, how you want to build this. This is just my own interpretation of how to conjure an omen. And I call it Omencraft. So feel free to take all that information as you will, you know, change it up if you would like. But I think conjuring an omen, doing Omencraft on the eclipse would be very folklorically, historically, and mythologically fitting for a solar eclipse. Please let me know down below what you are doing for this eclipse, and I hope that you all are staying safe. I know that here in my city, they're expecting like 500,000 visitors in our city. All the Airbnbs are completely booked up. The hotels are charging triple what they were, and they're booked up. The grocery stores are crazy. People are acting like, and I don't get it, because even if it is an apocalypse, I don't know what a dozen eggs and a loaf of bread is gonna do you, babe. Yeah, the city is crazy. Traffic is expected to be really crazy too. So just wherever you are, be safe. I hope that you're drinking your water. And yeah, please do let me know what you are doing for the eclipse, if you're doing anything at all. Why are you working with the eclipse? Why are you not working with the eclipse? I would love to hear about it. Until next time, friends, blessed be, and I will see you in hell.